Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this afternoon's meeting of the Cabinet Grants Panel, Monday the 22nd of August at 4 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is to note substitutes in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 4. And we have Councillor Demir substituting for Councillor Balsi and Councillor Cromie substituting for the Vice Chairman, Councillor Hillier. The second item is to receive apologies for absence. We've received apology for absence from both Councillor Balsi and Councillor Hillier. The third item is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Do we have any? Councillor Demir, right hand button.
Just to say that I'm a ward councillor in Bolnor, and that is one of the...
Right, thank you. Noted. Councillor Cromie, you're all right? Yes, I'm all right as well, thank you. Item 4 is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the panel held on the 20th of June. Please vote now, and as I was the only one present, I have voted. So those are agreed.
Yes, that's interesting.
Thank you. To consider any items that the Chairman agrees to take as urgent business, and I have one item with regard to the Linfield Common Tennis Court upgrades, and I'll pass to Mr. Clark to introduce that, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This report was in fact signed off by Councillor Belsey before we realised the amount involved is above the 50,000 delegation. So it has to come to the Cabinet Grants Panel. The 60,000 is being fully funded from developments in Linfield, and I would recommend it to the Grants Panel for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Are there any comments, colleagues? Councillor Demir.
Yes, I totally agree with this. It was just one query I had. The revenue implications, Mr. Clark. It says improvements to the facilities will negate the need for revenue-funded patch repairs. What kind of sum were we looking at for something like that? Obviously, this is better value for money in the longer term.
Tom?
Well, it's a bit like road repairs. You patch them so often that in the end you have to do the whole job. And I think it's probably reached that stage now.
Does that satisfy you, Councillor Demir?
Yes.
Thank you. If there are no further comments, colleagues, can I ask you to vote using the buttons on the screen? Thank you. And for brevity, I will announce the result, and that is agreed. Thank you. The next item is to receive representations from members of the Council on the applications that are before us today, and I have not received any. Councillor Cromie, have you? No? Thank you. Item 7, the Corporate Grant Scheme, release of Section 106 contributions, and I turn to Elaine Clark for that, please.
I've had two applications to bring to the panel today. They're both similar in that they're for acoustic works to existing buildings. So one is from Copthorne Sports and Community Association for £9,906 for acoustic panels in the main hall. The other is from the Bolnor Village Community Partnership for £8,326 for an acoustic wall on the mezzanine floor of the building, which is divides the small hall and the main hall. Small hall's on the first floor and the main hall's in the room below. And both organisations are finding it difficult to get hirers because they can't hire out more than one space at a time, and in the Copthorne building, it's too echoey to use for meetings and that kind of thing. So the purpose of both of these schemes is to increase hirings and bring in more revenue, which will make the organisations more sustainable. There's Section 106 available in both areas, which we can use for these facilities. So I've recommended 100% towards the costs. And the only thing that I really need to bring to your attention is that it's an eligibility requirement that applicants have 14 years security of tenure, but in the case of the Bolnell Village Community Partnership, they've only got 7 years remaining on their lease. But as it is a council-owned building, I've suggested that we waive that requirement on this occasion, but that the BVCP start negotiations with estates to extend the period of the lease. But that shouldn't hold up the work, I hope. They'll need to agree any improvements with us anyway. Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions? Councillor Demir, you stated at the outset that you were a councillor in the ward. Mr. Clark, does that have any influence on this? No.
No, it's a personal interest, Chairman.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, if we could deal with the Copthorne suggestion first. Colleagues, any questions on that? No?
Can I, sorry, it's probably a stupid question. Were you first?
No?
No. Unless I've missed it, the 106 contributions in both cases, where did they come from, or is that not relevant? Have I just missed it? Elaine? Oh, I'm sorry.
In the recommendation section, it gives you the reference and the site that we're using to fund the project.
Page 16,
My apologies.
bottom of the page.
It's made subject.
Whilst Councillor Demir is reading that, I would like to just say that it is very pleasing to see that there is some community improvements taking place as a result of communities having taken housing in those areas. And both Copthorne and Bolnell Village have had a large number of homes, and this is very pleasing to see these two applications coming forward. And certainly in the case of the Tim Farmer Hall, as it is a council-owned property, I would be happy to accept the suggestion of Elaine Clark. Colleagues, are you happy with that?
Absolutely, yes.
Tom, does that satisfy the legalities of the application?
Yes, can I make a comment, Chairman?
Certainly.
Just to say that we do use the small hall for election purposes, and I fully endorse the need for the acoustic wall because it's very loud up there from anything that happens downstairs.
Thank you for that piece of local knowledge, Tom.
The other thing I was going to say was,
Just wait till it goes red. That's it.
the only other comment I was going to make, which is great, is that we're allowing them to raise funds themselves to get an income, a source, and I think that's so important for our communities, especially when very often they're run on a voluntary basis and have got a lot of heating bills to come. So that's good news.
Thank you. So the recommendation is for the above applications, being the Copthorne Sports and Community Association and Bolnell Village Community Partnership, to receive the funds as outlined in the report, and those total £18,232. Thank you very much. if we can move on to agenda item.
Caroline.
Sorry, Chairman, colleagues. Thank you, that's unanimous. Right, agenda item 8, the corporate grant scheme, and I will hand over to Elaine for that report.
Okay, thank you. I'm standing in for Regina Chowdhury, who's on leave this week, so she's presented this paper about the recommissioning of citizens' advice. Is that where? Yep, agenda item 8. So the paper basically outlines the need really for the Citizens Advice Service, the local demand and the process that West Sussex County Council has been through recently to recommission the service. And the intention is to enter into a new contract with Citizens Advice on 1st of September 2022 for a period of 6 years, well, between 2022 and 2028. So it's a 3-year contract with a further 3 years, an option to extend for a further 3 years, and then another 1 year. So it's 3 plus 3 plus 1 optional. And it's a joint contract with all of the other district and boroughs. So the service is monitored in partnership with the other district and boroughs. But we identify our own local priorities and we have regular meetings with them to make sure that they're meeting our local needs. And our contribution towards that contract is £119,365 per annum. And that amount is, as I understand it, in the budget monitoring system already. Because their previous contract expired in April 2021 and they've had a kind of interim period while they went through the procurement process, but this now will put them on a firmer footing, so things are more secure and they can start planning ahead for the future. The recommendation in the report is slightly ambiguous because it asks you to note the outcome of the procurement process and to agree that we enter into the contract. So I think for clarity, for the sake of clarity, it would be helpful if the panel could agree to the financial commitment and the contract in this meeting, and we could have that agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, first of all, I would like to make the point that the issues that this council put forward in those negotiations were around the sorts of concerns that everybody is having across the country now as a result of the war in Ukraine, increased inflation, food prices, heating and so on, and also the possibility of unemployment, and all of those things, and unemployment counselling and assisting people into finding new work and so on are all included in this contract. Is that right, Elaine?
Yes, it is. Advice offer a whole range of services. I'm not sure that it's detailed in here, but they certainly will offer people advice on all of those areas, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make that point that we had put that forward as a council and that all the other councils had agreed that those were similar problems that they were seeing across their areas of responsibility as well. Councillors, any comments? No? Councillor Demir.
I'm right then, I've read it right, that we are going to contract for 119,365 until 2028, but 7/12 for this coming year. No?
No. That's the amount per annum.
But in para 12, during the first financial year, the annual payment contribution will be 7/12 of the total figure.
the total figure of 1,073,000 in the line above, so 1,073,201 per annum is the cost of delivering the service across West Sussex. So we're making, so our contribution towards that is 119,365.
So para 12 is a bit of a red herring because it's para 11 that, that's fine, my maths isn't that good.
Both paragraphs are applicable.
Yes.
And paragraph 12 is for 7 months of the year. You are correct
Yes,
that it will be 7/12 of that amount of 119,000
that's what I was saying.
for this year.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
thank
Yes.
you.
I'm sorry, we misunderstood.
My question.
Yeah.
Yes, and my second question was, if anything, which it won't, citizens' advice, are we then signing up to pay them that money till 2028? Are there any clauses by which if something dreadful happens, do we continue legally?
There's a review period after 3 months. They obviously, we monitor their progress. So if they do anything terrible, we can terminate the contract if it's not being delivered. From our side, we are making a commitment to support them. And we always used to have a clause in the contract which said if there were serious financial issues, you know, we could revisit that. But I must admit, because the contract is being issued by West Sussex, I don't know the detail of that. I'd have to come back to you on that.
Tom, could you?
As far as I recall, we pay the money provided they have the service. I'm not altogether clear there's a clause that says we can withdraw for financial reasons, because the whole idea of the contract is that they can plan ahead.
The point is, though, that every 12 months, am I correct, there's a review meeting between the contractor and the contractee, and that includes the districts and boroughs. And I myself have actually met with trustees and the Chief Executive of Citizens Advice Bureau on a number of occasions, just to monitor how the contract is being delivered in Mid-Sussex alone. And obviously I think paragraph 18 would satisfy some of your concerns.
I am content. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Colleagues, can we please note the outcome of the procurement process, and can we please vote on the signing of the contract sum applicable being £119,365 per year for a full year, and that first payment would become payable, that the contract would be signed on the 1st of September. That's me. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. And we move on to agenda item 9, which is the micro business grant scheme, and I'm handing over to Caroline Duffy for that.
Thank you, Chairman. Economic Development would like to bring forward another 6 applications for grant funding from the Micro Business Grant Scheme. There's been one meeting prior to this in June where we had 7 applications approved for funding just over 12,000. These 6 applications today is a relatively small amount of just over 6,000 for all 6 businesses. There are a really nice mixture in there, some relatively small amounts and a couple of larger ones, which is always really gratifying because that means we can support a larger number of businesses across the district. One of the things that we had said that we would do this time is to identify any returning applicants. So there are two this time in the 6, the CKG, the occupational therapist, and Strategic Marcoms Consultancy. They were both awarded micro-business grants in 2018. And historically, just for the benefit of those that aren't that familiar with the grant scheme, historically you can return for 2 years in a row for micro-business grant funding, and then there's a year where you're not allowed to put in an application. We've relaxed that this year because the scheme didn't effectively run last year because of COVID, so the 2020 scheme launched late. So we're quite comfortable with the fact that they've both come forward, and actually it's really lovely to see that those businesses are blossoming and coming back with further growth initiatives. Of those 6, 5 of them are established businesses and 1 is a start-up. And if all of these are approved today, we still have over 50,000 of funds remaining to keep supporting businesses between now and the end of the financial year, which is also nice because it gives the scheme a certain amount of longevity in that we can continue to support rather than the funding all going out the door in a really short period of time.
Thank you.
Any questions? Welcome.
Thank you, Caroline. Councillor Cromie. Right button, that's it.
Which one's the start-up?
It's the photography. It's Gibson Blanc Photography. So he just needs to purchase some equipment to enable him to be able to process all of the clients' requests. But he's keen to actually grow the business and take on a work placement student as well, which would be great.
I see in paragraph 9, it says the take-up of the grant scheme has been slower, as you've said, and this trend has been noted in other West Sussex districts and boroughs currently running similar grant schemes. That's a pity, and I'm again concerned about the fact that there have been no applications from the north of the district, and I am aware that all 3 business associations are asked to promote the schemes in the same way, and that the district council promotes the scheme as well. But I'm just at a loss as to why there are no applications from the north of the district.
That's something we are completely mindful of and continue to just keep on pushing as much as we can. So we're determined to break that if we possibly can at some point, just to provide the panel with a certain amount of comfort. What happened in previous micro-business grant schemes because of COVID, we did see a huge upsurge in applications, whereas historically when the scheme has run previously, you tend to have more of a trickle effect over a longer period of time. We knew we were going to already receive a high number of applications last time, so there was a fixed closing date, whereas this time it's more open-ended as applications come in and we've got more regular meetings to review. The other districts and boroughs have said exactly the same. So where they had the same experience as us previously, where we were over-subscribed for applications, they're noting a similar response, that it's almost reverted back now to that more sort of business as usual, people looking more carefully at what they might want to do as a growth project. The other thing regarding the north of the district that we just done last week, which fingers crossed will hopefully herald some benefits, is we're pushing the grant scheme out via Gatwick Diamond Business, which will hopefully target that sort of northern part of the district a bit more, and also through Coastal Capital Growth Hub. So not just the business associations, we're hoping that to see if that will perhaps get that word out to some of the more of those outlying areas that haven't historically responded to this scheme.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Caroline. Okay, Councillor Demir.
Thank you. I was interested, the 2021, we don't seem to have got so much from, for this time, because it totaled 73, nearly 74,000 last year, and we've only got 71 this year. I just wondered.
Caroline.
I misread it.
No, it's okay. It was a little bit different last time. We got exactly the same amount of money. What we were able to do last time, because we were oversubscribed and we wanted to obviously fund as many businesses as we could, there was a slight underspend from a previous grant scheme. So what we did is we rolled those funds over to bolster it. So we were still allocated the similar 71,000, but we had a couple of thousand from an underspend in the previous year. So that's the different figure there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If we could vote on the agreement as outlined in Table 1 of Agenda Item 9, and it's for a full amount of £6,128. And that is unanimously agreed. And thank you, colleagues. Caroline, can you take us on to Agenda Item 10, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The last agenda item is just a review of the previous micro-business grant scheme last year. So we've taken the opportunity now to go back to previous applicants, catch up with them about the benefits of the scheme. So we've provided some analysis there for you in terms of geographic spread, what the grants were spent on. And again, it's really good to review so we can actually see the benefits of the funding, but also it's a great opportunity to engage with businesses, and you'll see there's some fabulous feedback there from businesses that have found that funding really, really valuable. So it's just really for you to note the benefits of that previous scheme, and that we will look to get some comms activity out of that, particularly through our business newsletter, but probably through online Mid Sussex Matters this time as well, for a slightly different channel.
Good, thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions or comments? No?
Could I just make one tiny little...
Councillor Demir.
Sorry, I didn't press my button. Right, it was just a bit... I wonder if it's worth also promoting brilliant about Coaster Capital, etc. Because the villages seem to be, last year, we didn't give out too many, presumably because they didn't apply. Is it worth promoting them through our parish and town councils, or is that, you're doing it anyway?
Absolutely support any additional communication. So I would say any opportunities and conversations that anybody's having, push the word out there. They should all be aware, and we do promote, when the scheme launches, we email everybody, all the business association, all the town and parish councils, and because we now are up and running with our quarterly business newsletter, it goes in every single one of those as long as the scheme is live. But that said, I think there's always opportunities to do more, and certainly word of mouth is as valuable as anything else as well, so we'll keep on pushing. And I have no doubt that, you know, over the next 6 months we'll have quite a few more come forward. I suspect the holiday season has been a factor at the moment as well, between June and August.
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. The recommendation, paragraph 2, is for members of the panel to note the summary of the micro-business grant scheme and the positive feedback received from recipients and the proposed communication plan. And I would say that I'm very pleased to see a hair salon becoming a combined cake shop and hair salon, in which case I can tell my wife I'm going to have a haircut when actually I'm going elsewhere. But your report is received unanimously. Thank you very much. And being 28 minutes past 4, I will close the meeting and thank you, officers and councillor colleagues, for your attendance. Thank you.